What would my view and my judgment be at this time? Well, with deference to your questioner, I think there are two advantages that the euro would have over sterling, which would be something to consider at least. One advantage is it's developing as much more of a tradable currency as opposed to a capital flight currency. I mean, one of the reasons that the sterling interest rates are much higher than the euro area, they're 1.5% just now. Within a few weeks, it might be 2%, and that's that's not to be sniffed at. I mean, for an average family, that will be over £2,000 additional in borrowing costs for your mortgage and other things. Is that sterling? Because I'm just a bit old enough to remember elections which were decided on things like the balance of payments. Nobody ever talks about the balance of payments now, but the balance of payments is still a factor in economics. And basically, in order to balance the books and the balance of payments, the sterling area, the UK, has to attract in capital. To attract in capital, it means you usually have to have higher interest rates. So sterling is a high interest rate area. The euro, as far as the experience so far, and if you go back 25 years, and you look at Deutschmark rates, there's only been 6 months where either the Deutschmark or the euro interest rate has been higher than sterling, and that was in German reunification. So I would see advantages in the euro area, but I can see great advantage in the transitional period of having that continuity of keeping sterling until a Scottish Parliament and the Scottish people can judge whether it's in our economic interests to join the euro. But at least that judgment would be made on our economic interests, and we'd either decide it would be better to do it, or we'd be no worse than we are at the present moment. And that seems to be maybe the real thing about independence, is to have the ability to make the decision, regardless of what the decision is.
Or maybe the real thing about independence is interdependence.
Well, all countries are interdependent one upon the other, this much we know of, but if you're looking at one side of economic policy, I was sometimes asked, I was asked at a meeting in Pennycook last night by a gentleman, very articulate, who said you couldn't be independent within a European context. No country could, and Scotland therefore should aspire to be like Norway and be independent out of Europe, as opposed to Ireland being independent within Europe. And the example I gave to try and allay some of his fears is this: if Scotland were an independent country within the European Union, then we would control 99% of Scotland's revenue. The only 1% is the VAT contribution, which is centrally controlled, but 99% would be controlled by Scotland. Currently, we control about 12.5% of Scotland's revenue as a devolved government. Now, it does seem to me that 12.5%, 1/8 control, is not real independence. 99% control is independence within an interdependent world as far as economic policy is concerned.